Hey guys, watch this review here with quick review on the graphic novel slash trade paperback Road to Perdition. Can't remember which one it technically is. Now, apparently, before it was a movie, which I'm sure many of you have probably heard of, I believe it won some awards, starred Tom Hanks and Jude Law. But before then, it was a graphic novel, and I can't speak highly enough of this graphic novel between the really neat art, especially the use of reflections. Just the whole character designs and stuff. And of course, the story is massively, massively solid. Now, for those of you not familiar with it, or if you've seen the movie, it does differ from the movie in a few kind of major regards. For one thing, Jude Law's character from the film is very incidental in here. He doesn't really even appear until the end of it, and then there's one other sort of massive change where I can totally understand where they would have done that versus the movie, because the movie's one's more of a upbeat ending where, it's more of a sort of serious, dramatic ending for this one. Well, if you do read it, you'll see exactly what I mean, and of course I do recommend picking this one up or reading it. Actually, check this out from my local library. But equally impressive is the introduction by the author, Max Allen Collins. Apparently he previously wrote for Dick Tracy for a substantial amount of time, in addition to also being the origin of Jason Todd, which, he kind of lampoons himself a bit over that, just mentioning the fact that he went down in comic book history as one of the few examples where people voted to kill off a character. More notably, though, is the fact that he lists one of his inspirations for this story, which basically concerns a child who, looks up to his dad and everything, and he doesn't know that his dad is a sort of hitman for the mob. And one day he walks in, he sees the son of the mob boss involved in a gangland execution, and, things sort of go downward from there, and the whole story is basically the father and his surviving son trying to head out and sort of escape the mob while at the same time getting revenge for the deaths of the wife and other son. That's not too much spoilers though, because a lot of that wraps up pretty quickly for the beginning. Now, as mentioned, one of the inspirations was Lone Wolf and Son, which I thought was just sort of a tremendous thing. If you're not familiar with it, it's a manga where a samurai who's disgraced and stuff is just leaving. He was trying, everybody's out to kind of execute him and stuff, and with the help of his son and sort of a stroller full of weapons and crap, he ends up taking out a ton of people who come after him and stuff, in addition to also sort of running into problems, which he then solves. Frankly, I think it's kind of a horrendous manga, but I'm just impressed for the whole cross-reference, especially because this book was originally intended to be broken up between three different sort of series of trade paperbacks, like, say, your Shonen Jumps and everything, where don't pay too much close attention to these words, just in case it might spoil things. I just want to show you some art while I'm blabbing. This art is just really awesome. But they were going to do 3 trade paperbacks, sort of like you have your Shonen Jumps and everything. And it just shows the whole cross-culture between the Japanese comic market and the US comic market, and the way that they've sort of inspired each other over the years, in addition to, the whole thing that the whole American comics trying to incorporate manga elements is by no means new, because this project was actually started back in the 80s and everything. And, Japan does have sort of definite mature readership where a lot of their manga does sort of concern detective stories and things that you typically would gear more towards adults than, I hate saying this, but superheroes do kind of get seen as being a little bit more kiddie. Although, obviously there are lots of mature superheroes that deal with all sorts of mature content, but, it's just a matter of perception. And for whatever reason, the Japanese market really differs from the US in many regards. Nonetheless, just a very interesting read all around, from the introduction to the actual content, in addition to having some really nice art. I would highly recommend picking this one up or just reading it, because not sure if I'd probably ever go back and reread it several times, but definitely a lot of this stuff I do kind of appreciate, the sort of simple style and everything. This is not all that simple, but at any rate, until next time, folks.